Welcome everybody. This is Denny with my YouTube channel, Why Is This True? And joining me today is Jeff Daugherty, who is the Christian whistleblower. Is that correct? Do I have
That's
that correct?
correct.
That's correct. So he's on the right coast. I'm on the left coast, and he decided to hook up with me to do this interview today. And I've been in his corner a little bit, rooting for him, hoping that he's going to get an interview with Lisa Renee. So that's kind of like our connection, you know. And I found out about you through Ian on Facebook, and I checked out the video that you did where you were looking through some of the material that Lisa Renee had on Ascension Glossary, and I just was very inspired by the way you were looking at this stuff, and it was a discovery process for you, and you were letting us join in on it, and you were very humble about it. And it was just very engaging for me, and that's why I wanted to do this interview with you. So thank you for joining me. I really appreciate it.
It's my pleasure to be here with you, Denny, and I really do appreciate those comments. And I think you probably realize this as well. The more that you find out you know, the more you find out you don't know. And the only way to really come to any real understanding is to try to set your current beliefs on a shelf if you can, and really set aside your ego and look at what other people have discovered, look at what other people have found, and you take it all in, and sometimes you end up eating the meat, so to speak, and throwing out the bones, or eating the good part of the vegetables and throwing away the scraps if that's your dietary preference. But I think the only way to do it is to really come at it from a humble standpoint, and come to it, like the old saying, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. And you just have to have that attitude of being a student. And I think ego is probably one of the biggest obstacles that we have to learning. I remember, 30 years ago, I thought I knew everything and knew almost nothing. And hopefully I've been able to turn that paradigm around a little bit, which is debatable, I guess.
Well, I learned a little bit about your background, and I just realized what a rare creature you are, in that many people with your background will never be exposed in the way that you've been exposed to the materials that you're looking at now. Most people, by the time they go through the educational process and the career process that you've been through, are going to be very closed off to what you've learned.
Absolutely. I mean, I don't know of anybody else that's, a Bible college graduate, 20-year former, red hot blood-bought Pentecostal minister that's now, in the realms that we're in. And to me, it was very interesting how it happened. My adult son and daughter were living with me. They were both, 18, 19 years old about the time. And they started staying up all night and listening to this crazy radio show, Coast to Coast. And they're trying to tell me, Dad, listen to this Coast to Coast AM thing. And then they started watching the Ancient Aliens on TV. And I was calling it Ancient Idiots, and there's no way I'm going to stay up and listen to this Coast to Coast AM. And finally, they got me to, sit down and listen to Coast one time, and they got me to watch Ancient Aliens. I remember the first face I ever saw was Giorgio Tsoukalos with his big hair. So but it's a strange world, because now I've been on Coast 8, 9, 10 times, and, am a full believer, and, at least some of the premises of the Ancient Aliens. So it was an interesting trip, and it continues to be an interesting ride.
Right, and you've made quite a study of Genesis, the Book of Genesis, and you've been able to draw some very interesting parallels and correlations between, for instance, Lisa Renee's material on Ascension Glossary. Is it AscensionGlossary.com or .org?
I believe it's .com.
.com. Okay, yeah, and so could you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. Now, I'm by no means an expert on Lisa Renee's material. I've been kind of dabbling in it for a couple of years, and it really resonates with me. But to say I'm an expert on it would be woefully inaccurate.
Right.
But obviously had a very, very traditional Christian view of Genesis. And when I started looking at it in the original Hebrew, from the very first words of Genesis, in the beginning, God. We think of that as God, the monolithic God, the big beard, the long hair, the I'm God thing. And then you look at the word in Hebrew, and the word is Elohim. And that word actually means male and female goddesses, plural. So just, you're in the beginning, God, you're 4 words in, and your whole paradigm has just, exploded. And then I get to the point of, okay, these guys and gals, the Elohim came to create our heaven and earth. Where did they come from? They had to come from somewhere. And that's kind of is what led me to the portion of the rabbit hole that Lisa Renee, talks about. And I think when you saw, I was looking at all of the different, the federation or whatever, and all the different people that are different species that are involved, and because with Lisa Renee, there's nothing simple, and everything is, I was so impressed that everything is very, very systematic. Everything is very, very linear. Everything's very well thought out. It's not something that she just, dropped some acid and thought it up. It's very, very well constructed. And I'm not sure that I'm 100% on board, but I'm certainly very, very interested in it. And we don't really know. And I think that's the good thing about it is we're not, with our capacity, probably ever able to completely say, oh, yeah, I got it. I know the whole thing. But if you can stay open, as we were talking a little bit before we came on air, if you can stay open and stay humble enough to realize that there's always something to learn, you can pick up some great stuff from a variety of different places. And I think that Lisa Renee is certainly a place for some great understandings, or a place, if nothing else, to really stretch and grow your preconceived boundaries.
Right. So in your study of Genesis and some of your looking into Lisa Renee's material, you found some corroboration or parallels between the story of Genesis and what she's writing about in terms of the cosmology, like the story of our beginnings, so to speak.
Right, and actually if you look at the book of Genesis and you're able to look at it objectively, that's very, very difficult because, as a species for 6,000 years or so, we've been indoctrinated with the same type of an idea about the Bible, and specifically for 2,000 years with the Christian system, and however old we are, that's all we hear, and it's ubiquitous in our media, in our culture, and in our religious thought. But if you really begin to look at it objectively, you can realize that the writers of Genesis were thoroughly polytheistic in thought. And they very much were aware of, and probably, I hate to use the word plagiarized, but let's just say copied liberally or borrowed liberally from many of the other great creation epics, like the Sumerian epics, the Akkadian epics, a lot of the other cosmologies out there of creation. You can find traces of it and big portions of it within the book of Genesis. And whether you look at Eric von Daniken's work, or you look at Zachariah Sitchin's work, or you look at even Lisa Renee's work, there's some very interesting explanations of how these things may have come to be, and there's a lot of correlations between all three. And it's interesting to me that real truth flows together and fits together, and maybe not one person has every bit of it, but if we study enough and learn enough and are open enough, we can see strains of truth, and we can learn from different people and to get a fuller idea of what Genesis is teaching us, or what the Sumerians are teaching us, or what Lisa Renee is teaching us. It's nice to be able to, I guess, drink from more than one watering hole, to put it in a real colloquial term.
Are you familiar with Michael Heiser's work?
I am not, and that's one of the weaknesses I have. Is a lot of people tell me, "Are you familiar with fill in the blank?" And often I say no, because I spend so much time. I've only been in this, Denny, maybe 5-6 years in this realm. So I've had my head down. I've written 12 books, and I'm doing tons and tons of study on my own. So I don't have enough time to be able to read other people's work. And that's one of the reasons why I made some personal changes in my life to free up some extra time to be able to look at the work of some other people. Like with Lisa Renee, I've been dabbling in that for 2 years and know next to nothing about it.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I have the same problem. I mean, I'm trying to get ready for interviews this week, and I'm frantically like, oh gosh, I got to go back and spend some more time on Jeff's YouTube channel and see if I can read some of the stuff he's written and get ready for this interview. And it just, you get steamrollered, just with all the material, all the information that you really should consume to be knowledgeable and give respect to the people you're dealing with. And
absolutely.
Yeah.
But it's so nice when you get yourself to the place that you can, and you mentioned this a little bit earlier when we were talking, do what you're here for. And even though it can be overwhelming, and even though, people think, oh, well, you're not working on a quote unquote secular job anymore, but the work doesn't stop. The work probably increases. The number of hours increase. But I don't know who said it, but if you do what you love, you'll never work another hour in your life. That they didn't mean that you won't be working. They just meant that it doesn't seem like work, because it really is a labor of love. And
yeah, you're not looking up at the clock.
No, you're not looking up at the clock, but there's probably more hours of effort put in. So, people ask me, why don't you have a girlfriend? And I start thinking, how could I manage a relationship? Because if I'm with a person, I'd be thinking, man, I really need to be making some videos, so it almost wouldn't even be fair.
Oh, boy.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So of course, the thought that passed through my mind is like, wow, Jennifer's really patient with me. My wife.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So,
but when you talk about it, Denny, you think about it, a relationship, a close personal relationship, a marriage, a life partner. It's either the best thing or the worst thing you ever do. If you get the right one, it can't be any better, and everything is just wonderful. If you get the wrong one, it's the exact opposite. And I think there's so many people that are of the mindset, I've got to have somebody. It's the old Tom Cruise, Renee, whatever her name was, Jerry Maguire. You complete me.
Yeah.
Brother, sister, nobody completes you. If you don't complete yourself, you're never going to be able to get to where you really want to be in a relationship. So I think we need to get off of that paradigm and be a complete person ourselves. I remember when I was back in my Christian days, I was preaching with a guy, and he said, if you want to attract a 10, you got to be a 10. So maybe that was a kind of a base way of trying to say what I'm trying to communicate. But in other words, congratulations to you.
Or congratulations to Jennifer, my wife.
Exactly.
She's done most of the heavy lifting here. So in terms of the relationship. But
sure.
Yeah, so what has captured your attention here lately? What are you studying, or what are you looking at lately?
Oh, it's so interesting. I've really been trying to grow my YouTube channel for about 6 months or so. And if anybody wants to know what's going on with me, that's the place to find it. You just go on YouTube, Jeff Daugherty, YouTube, Christian Whistleblower, it all pops up. And, we're still, very small. We've only got about 5,000 followers or subscribers, whatever they're called. But it's amazing the volume of information that I get from those subscribers. They're always saying, hey, Jeff, what about this? Hey, Jeff, what about that? And I can't wait till there's 100,000 of them, because then the synergy is going to be just amazing. So it is good for me with my personality and, my Gemini mindset. It's very, very good, because I get so much information from so many directions, and it's nice to be able to synthesize all that. So, right now, I think probably one of the things I'm thinking about and dealing with is two big things, really. Number one, the chakras, and are the chakras tools, or are the chakras traps, something that need to be removed? I don't know if you've been exposed to much of that yet.
Yeah, I'm familiar with the argument.
And also, I'm dealing a lot with now. Came across something randomly that Peter said in 1 Peter. He was talking about how the Christ and his disciples would actually go into the spiritual realm and evangelize people that were now dead, that had been deceived while they were in bodily form. So those are kind of the two things that have my mind currently occupied, but that's very subject to change.
Wow, that's cool. So the Peter passage, is that something that you discovered as a result of one of your viewer questions, or was that something you're just doing on your own?
That particular one was just on my own. I randomly came across it, and it's funny. I have over 100,000 hours of study in the Bible. I've read the Bible hundreds of times, and yet there's still things that I see it, and it's almost like it's the first time I've ever read that passage. And it's such a profound idea, because traditional Christian thought is very much, this is it, it's your one life, heaven or hell, turn or burn. And to see that without, I mean, if you get into the original language, there's no ambiguity about it at all. Peter says that for this reason, the gospel, which is the good news, an evangelistic message, is being preached to those that are now dead, to give them a chance to be able to make a decision based on the true message of Christ versus the false message that they heard while they were still alive. So that's very, very interesting. It kind of takes it, one step above when we're talking about casting out demons or doing ghost hunting. Most people are just interested in, getting rid of the demon or getting rid of the ghost and then fade to black. But, I always ask myself, what about the spirit? Do we have any responsibility, or shouldn't we be trying to help that spirit? And that's the rabbit hole it's taken me down, and it's very, very interesting and very, very rewarding.
It's fascinating because that is very much in alignment with what I'm doing on my channel with Carl Mollison.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, we're actually over, I think, right around 50%, or maybe slightly greater than 50% of the people that we've contacted and channeled, people like Bill Cooper, Phil Schneider, James Forrestal. We did one with Dwight D. Eisenhower.
Interesting.
Several of these people that were from that era of discovery and exposure around this whole secrecy thing around the alien question, and 50%, maybe more, were not in the light. These were earthbound spirits. When Carl went to contact them to see if we could do a channeling session with them, he found that they were not in the light. They were still what they call earthbound spirits. So he did what they called a spirit rescue, so that they could return to the light. And then typically we have to wait like 2-3 days, and then we come back, and then we can do the interview. And
that's fascinating. It's
very much in alignment with what this Peter passage is, because it's essentially the same thing. They're finding spirits that are still subjected to the lies that they experienced when they were living, and they haven't transitioned from that in their post-death experience. So
Absolutely.
Then I could see that. Well, Peter and the apostles and Jesus would go and rescue these spirits. Perhaps I'm speculating here, right? This could be. I may have it. No,
you're
wrong.
Right on. You're right on.
And bringing these people back into the light, so to speak, and
or at least giving them the chance to respond to the message, because some of them hear it and don't respond.
Right.
But the vast majority of the ones that do hear it, a lot of the reasons that they're earthbound are reasons of guilt and reasons of fear and reasons of, self-condemnation and lack of information. And once they understand the whole, I don't have original sin, I had the spark of divinity in me from the beginning, that is usually a big aha moment for a lot of them. But not everyone, accepts the message, so to speak. And that's the thing about the Christ, and I try to keep that the thing about my work, is I'm not here to convince anybody to change their beliefs. A man convinced against his will is of the same opinion still anyway. But I'm here to give people the opportunity to get all the information in order to make the most well-informed decision possible for themselves.
Right. Yeah. That's I liken it to that, like, you can lead the horse to water, you can't make them drink. So my job is to keep the trough looking really nice.
I like that.
Let the horses come and go.
Yep. And you can bring people to what you think is objective truth, but you can't make them think. So
yeah. So yeah, the name of my channel is Why Is This True? And then I say your answer is the most important one.
Oh, that's great. I love that.
And then the only other thing I'm always yammered about is reveal and forgive. Which is in fact, it's a term that's being picked up by other people now. The other day there was a fellow who's got, I think, like, he's got like a new kid on the block, and he had a meteoric rise in his YouTube channel. Went from, like, I remember when he had 300 subscribers. Now he's got like 30,000. And I watched one of his videos the other day, and he said reveal and forgive, and I went, oh, cool.
You talking about Jordan?
Yeah. So
I do watch him.
I teased him a little bit about it, and he goes, yeah, well, it just came into my mind. And, well, that's pretty cool, because imitation is the best form of flattery,
Yeah, and it's interesting. I hear Rex Bear now at Leak Project using Plastic Jesus, which is kind of a term I coined. So it's nice to see. And Rex has been very helpful to me. Great guy, and I love watching his channel as well.
Oh, okay, I'll check him out. Yeah.
He has probably 115,000 subscribers, so very well, good channel. And he's the only guy I've seen that works harder than me. I put out 6 videos a day. He'll put out 7.
Wow, 6 videos a day?
I usually get somewhere 4, 5, 6 a day, but Rex is doing even more than that.
Oh, I must be in a coma.
Remember, I don't have a social life. We talked about that already.
I know. Yeah, yesterday Jennifer and I were supposed to go to a party, and it was right up the street. We could have walked there, and she was busy. She works in real estate part time, and so she was busy with that, and I was busy with I don't know whatever. We never did go. We just worked right through the day, and next thing I know, it's time for bed.
Yeah, it happens.
Yeah, wow, 6 videos a day. I had no idea. That's amazing. So you do them as live streams, or you record them and edit them and then post them, or?
Currently, I'm doing everything. I'll record it, and then I'll do I wish I knew how to do more editing. I'm really trying to learn that, but I'll record them, I'll edit them, I'll put them out there. Trying to like with Lisa Renee and other people that I would want to interview, we'd of course would do that live, but we're not at that place yet. Now, I used to have a radio show for quite a while. We were on a few terrestrial stations, and that just got to be, in my mind, I didn't think that the reward was worth the work I was putting into it. So we're just really focusing on the YouTube at this point, and we're experiencing some real good growth. And my goal is to get the message out to as many people as possible. So it fires me up when I see that our numbers are going up and there's a lot of people watching. So it's very nice.
So Jeff, do you find that there's Christians that are finding your channel and then introducing you to their friends? Do you see a lot of that happening, or is it hard to tell?
Not really. Basically, I think right now the main, I guess most of the people that are turning on to me are people that have been already disaffected by Christianity. I haven't had much traction with those that are Christians, seeing me and having a come to Jesus moment, so to speak, and saying, "Hey, this is wrong." And it doesn't really surprise me, because when I first realized, I was a full-time pastor and evangelist, and when I first realized that something was wrong, it took me almost 10 years before I was able to say, "Okay, I'm out of here." So it's a very, very slow and painstaking process with people that are, hardcore, born again evangelical type Christians. So I don't get very many quick converts in that area, and I think right now mainly it's again people that have been, people that have an affinity and a love for Jesus or Yeshua or the Christ or whatever they call them, but have been turned off by organized big time religion. That's kind of my strong suit, and then there's a lot of people that hear me on Coast to Coast AM and come over that way as well.
So have you ever met anybody who's had a similar path as yours?
I've got one buddy named Scotty Roberts. He's a real great guy. He's a great illustrator, and he does a lot of speaking at conferences and stuff. Similar background, but not quite like mine. But no, I'm an odd duck, Denny.
Valuable duck.
An odd duck. I always say kind of half jokingly, I'm the best in the world at what I do, and that's not very hard because I'm the only one in the world that does what I do.
So one of the things that I've been just getting into with my channel is translations. Is that something that you might try to pursue at some point?
Oh, on the channel, yeah. I've looked at that, and I'm guessing it's probably not as easy as just clicking that translation button and all of a sudden it comes out in Spanish.
Well, some of the languages it does pretty good on, and some of them it's just a car wreck.
Oh, is it?
Yeah. It's a hilarious car wreck. Oh.
I'll bet. And that could be. We laugh, but that could be kind of damaging in what we do, because if you mean one thing and it translates another, then it could be a whole different. Well,
fortunately, most of the non-English speaking people they were very eager and excited about Google Translate, and then once they had an experience with it, they were they sobered up rapidly. Huh? Yeah. So, and I went into it very naive. I was like, oh gosh, closed caption, automatic, and 180 different languages. No. And then, I had a friend from Hungary. They sent me, she sent me a translation from English to Hungarian, and then back from Hungarian to English of a very popular song. And it was a Jimmy Kimmel something or whatever.
Yeah.
And it was hilarious. It was so convoluted. So, but anyway, the reason I bring it up is that, you having such a unique position with your work, and there is a thirst for that in some of these other countries. And what I have found very slowly is that I have listeners, I have subscribers who are English speaking and speak other languages. So and they're volunteering to translate my videos, the
that's
text.
Great.
So anyway, I've been putting the bug in the air of some of the people like you to maybe get just plant a seed. May not be the right time, but if you ask, you put that out there, you may have some videos. And what I'm doing is I'm saying, well, go ahead and look at. So I have one he's doing Turkish. He's translated two interviews right now. And then another woman who just volunteered to do Russian, and
that's a great idea.
And they're languages that Google Translate does not work well with.
I was just thinking with Turkish and Russian that would be problematic at best, I would think.
Yeah. So they're volunteering to do this, and if you were to do this on your own, it's pretty costly.
And it is. It's prohibitive.
Yeah. So anyway, just put the bug out there. And the other thing that I wanted to mention for the viewers is that you geographically, you're in a very tough place to be doing what you're doing, from my understanding, because you're kind of like in that southwestern Bible Belt. I mean, there's people out. I know people that are like closet. They have an interest in Pleiadians and UFOs and all this stuff, but they can't talk about it with in the wider circle in their community, because if they did, they would be ostracized and they would no longer have their businesses because they're in a Christian community.
That's true. It really is true, and it's unfortunate. And I'm here in Clearwater, Florida. This is where I was born and raised. I've been everywhere else, but I'm back home now. And the interesting thing about us is, of course, this is the world headquarters for the Church of Scientology. So anything that's a little bit odd, if you say anything odd here, they just immediately assume that you're a Scientologist, and that's about like being Dracula here if you're not a Scientologist. So yeah, and again, I say this to my own shame, and I got to change it. I'm not really out in the local community enough to really see that or feel that, and I have been kicking around the ideas of maybe doing a meeting or something like that on a regular basis here, because there seems to be a few people around, but we're definitely still in the minority, no doubt about it.
Yeah. Yeah, my heart goes out to some of these people because they're sincere. They don't want to cause trouble and stuff. But for them, it really is a survival issue.
Oh, absolutely.
And they can't be public on Facebook. They can't be. They have to be very careful about who they talk to. And I have a friend here whose brother lives in one of those communities, and I think one of the reasons that he hasn't talked about it is because he doesn't want to, besmirch his brother. Who's got a business back there, and they're both of the same mindset. They both feel this connection to something that just doesn't fit in with that Christian narrative.
Right, and it can be, and it's you have to really be cognizant of that, because, I mean, however you feel about it, the election of Donald Trump as president is probably the latest testament to the power of the quote unquote ultra conservative, fundamental type Christian people. And it's a group, it's a dynamic that you can't afford to cross if you are in some type of a business where you have to depend upon the the normal person up and down the street for customers. So I can totally understand that.
Yeah, I think where I live, I meet a lot of people who don't have a very clear idea of what that's like. Like if they were living in Virginia or Kentucky, and they were in a community like that, where just virtually everyone goes to the same church or is in some Christian denomination like that, and it's different.
California is a different place. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah. Anyway, there's a lot of stories on that one. So what do you so you think you might do something local then? Oh, I know what I wanted to ask you before we get to that. Are your kids still involved in your rabbit hole? Are they still contributing?
No, because the one was my youngest daughter, and I have to start at the top and count down. That 33 minus 4 is 29. She's 25. So I have a daughter 25, one 29, and a son 33. And both of the daughters are very much back in the strong, Christian church, fundamentalists. So they take a rather dim view of what I do. My son is kind of on board. He's definitely not traditional Christian anymore, but it's it's a weird dynamic for him because I'm still dad to him. Not anybody that really is that he has. I think he has trouble listening to me because I'm his dad, and not if I was somebody like you, it'd be a lot different hearing the information from. So
I see. Okay.
But some pretty good support from my son, but my other two daughters, they are not on board at all. But we still have a great relationship. It's just we don't go there.
Yeah. So, but one of the daughters was getting you to watch Coast to Coast back in the day.
She was, and she'll still listen to Coast, but she's very much back within the Christian fold at this point.
Wow, that must be an interesting thing to witness.
It really is, because when she was trying to get me to watch, listen to Coast and watch Ancient Aliens, she was very much away from the church, but now she's back with the church. So, and she's in Virginia, interestingly enough. So,
good old.
So you know what that means? Absolutely.
Yes, I do. Yes,
hardcore.
I do. Yeah,
hardcore.
It's for real. Yeah, in 1997, I lived in a house up by Mount Shasta, and the people who owned the house, they built it, and they built the top floor as one room, so you had like a 360-degree view.
Nice.
And it was a beautiful spot. And Mount Shasta's just kind of like dominated the south part of the room, looking through the windows. And he goes, yeah. And so at the time, I was into the unincorporated church movement. I was really trying to help churches revoke their corporate status so that they could be more beholden to just the Bible aspect of it. And also I was into the sovereignty movement, like the Christian Jural Society, and also into home church, the whole idea of home church. So the landlord goes, yeah, well, this is where we used to have our UFO parties. And I go, oh, isn't that cute? So that was what I thought in my mind. Isn't that quaint? And I thought I was really, I was where it was happening. We're going to free the Christian churches from the state. And,
I was going to ask you if you'd ever noticed UFO activity up by Mount Shasta. That's of course a purported hotspot.
Yeah, it is, and I was when I was up there, it was such a different mindset for me that I probably could have looked at one and just not even it wouldn't even registered.
Right.
What we did see up there was what they call I think venticular clouds. Those really odd saucer-shaped clouds that would come and cap the mountain on one side or the other, sometimes right over the top, and they're very bizarre-looking clouds. And so now one of the guys I do interviews with, he teaches people how to look at cloud formations as perhaps a interdimensional or in this dimension means of cloaking for UFOs. And
that's interesting.
And I'm kind of on the fence about it, but I'm very supportive of this fellow because he's in a very dramatic way. He's encouraging us to think outside the box.
Oh, absolutely.
Or to throw the box out, And so I'm very supportive of that because, these traditional ways of thinking is kind of what's gotten us into a lot of trouble.
Absolutely. And I've just started to get some of those pictures from subscribers, and some of them do look rather odd. And I'm kind of with you. Anything that gets us thinking outside the box is a good thing. We just, we don't want to go completely off kilter with it, but, and look at every cloud like there's a UFO behind it. And we'd be like I was with the Pentecostals. The Pentecostals thought there was a demon behind every bush. And there's not a UFO behind every cloud. There's really not. But some of those clouds do look awfully odd. I agree with you.
Yeah. So if you were to do something local there, how do you envision that being created? How would you go about doing that?
I think probably just start off like through a meetup and see if you can do it, once a month and have, some like-minded believers. And that's the one thing that I'm a little bit frustrated about with, the quote-unquote truth movement or, free-form spirituality is we're starting to get a lot of camps. You got the flat earth people don't want to talk to the round earth people. The Art Bell people don't want to talk to the George Norrie people. And, the interdimensional alien people don't want to talk to the intergalactic alien people. And we're just not big enough to be, balkanizing ourselves like that. So I'd love to have a situation. I was actually on with Vinny Eastwood a while back out in New Zealand. And he says that they have a meeting at a pub that's owned by a guy that is a conspiracy theorist type guy. And they have people from all different conspiracies just go in there and have a good time and talk about their stuff. They do it like an open mic comedy night. Each person gets 5 minutes to talk about their particular heresy, and the rest of the time they just enjoy each other. That would be a great way to go about it, I think. And then, there's a lot of people. I do a lot of spiritual work too, as far as, I've been involved in, I don't really like the term, but I can't think of a better one, exorcism for, at least 35 years. So I do a lot of that type of work as well, a lot of spiritual counseling. So it'd be kind of an amalgamation of let's just hang out or, come get an idea of who I am to see if you really want to work with me or think I can help you.
Mm-hmm. So do you get people, do you still work with people, or people approach you about like possession issues or demonic spirits or entity attachments and that kind of thing?
Yep, I do it probably almost every day. I'll have a session with at least one person.
Wow.
And we do it virtually like we're doing this interview, and it's been very successful. And it's very rare that I can't help somebody out, but and I've even had some times where people have severe things, they'll fly me out and we'll take care of things in person.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
Yep.
That's wonderful.
Very interesting.
And probably very satisfying.
Oh, it is. It's like you mentioned before, doing what you're here for. And I mean, this is my great basic purpose. This is what I'm here for. And doing it's the most fulfilling thing that I've ever done. And I just really hope and try to work and push, prod or shove, is maybe not shove, but a gentle nudge as many people as I can to take that leap and go and do what your great basic purpose is. Number one, find it. And then number two, embrace it and do it. Because there's nothing that even comes close to the rewarding feeling and satisfaction and really the sense of completeness. We talk about you complete me. Well, you complete you, and that's when is when you're doing what you're born to do.
Yeah. So, and you've probably helped people to do that as well, to find their calling.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And it's very scary to people because let's say that your calling is a photographer and you're working as you work in sales at a corporation, but you're probably working 40, 50, 60 hours a week at that corporation. And by the time you get home and, do what you got to do and spend some time with your family, you might get to devote maybe 2 or 3 hours a week to your real passion, which is photography. So what I try to encourage people to do is look for ways that they can cut back a little bit of the 40, 50, 60 hours. Maybe get rid of one of the cars, maybe move into a smaller place, maybe get rid of the boat or, have jet skis instead of a boat. Try to cut down your amount of money you need, and then you can start cutting back the amount of time that you're working in your non-passion business, paying the bills. And the more time that you can give to your passion, you'll find out that it starts producing some income for you. So over a certain amount of time, you can get to that place of, do I quit my sales job to go into photography full time, because they're right neck and neck, and then you got to take that leap of faith. So
right,
that's kind of the way it works.
Yeah, the faith part seems to be a very large component of all of that.
Oh, it's a tough one. It's tough to burn your bridges and jump off the building or jump out of the nest, whatever, because then you got to fly.
Yeah. Do you think it's easier for people that are a little bit older to make those kinds of transitions, or
easier for young people has been my experience?
Okay, so the older folks usually just kind of just to hammer down, just stay the course because it's been working so far. I might be miserable, but I know it works. I
mean, older folks, and I just turned 54, so I'm definitely older folks. But I think a lot of people that are my age and older, we've still had the whole idea of, work for one company, retire, get a pension. So I think a real victory for folks in my age bracket would be, well, maybe I'll take Social Security at 62 instead of 65, and then I'll start to work on it. So, but the interesting thing is, the older people probably have more means to be able to do this because they've been doing some savings, they've been putting aside for retirement. So, folks like us should really consider it even more than the younger folks, because there's a lot of people with that are older that have a much greater ability to embrace their passion on a at least a semi full-time basis than those that are just starting out. But I guess if you're young, broke is broke. So
yeah,
might as well be broke and happy.
That's a very good point. I mean, there's a lot of kids out there going to college and they have to live with 2 roommates and have 2 jobs, and neither one of the jobs are what they were trained for,
right,
in their college education. So, oof.
Right,
yeah,
right.
Yeah, well, I in my case, I feel like I'm fortunate because I did do it late in life. I think if I had tried to make that transition earlier, it probably wouldn't have worked that well, just because of my temperament and what I thought I knew.
Yeah, it's very tough, and that's another good point. It takes a lot of us a lot longer to realize that we don't know what we think we know, and to come to the place where we're able to say, wow, what I've been taught all my life doesn't really add up anymore, and I've got to make that transition. But there's a lot of young people. I remember somebody said to me, don't you wish you could go back and tell yourself what you know now when you were 30? And I'm like, no, not really, because I probably wouldn't have listened to me anyway, because I knew it all then. So each age has its own challenges, and its own opportunities.
Yeah. Hey, Jeff, have you ever been invited to on a speaker's event? Has anybody wanted you to come speak to their group, or have you had?
Not as much as I like. I have been to several, the conventions, conferences, and have really enjoyed doing that. And talking to people, meeting people, offering my books and stuff like that. But I think I'm just odd enough and just weird enough and just controversial enough that I don't know. People don't think I'm a good fit, so I don't get nearly as many opportunities as I wish I would. I'm trying to build that part up, but have done it, love doing it, open to doing it more. But it just hasn't been a real big thing for me, and it's a frustration of mine that I haven't been able to get that part of it working more for myself.
Because I find you to be a good speaker.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that.
You're not like me going,
I think you're doing a fine job.
Yeah, I do all right. You just have to have the patience for my hesitations and my. A lot of times I'll ask a question and I'm kind of like, say 3-4 unrelated words, look up off to the side, then ask the question.
You're accessing that your memory. Right. What I'm trying to think about. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But it's a great dynamic when you go to these conferences and these conventions, because you've got 1,000, 2,000, 5,000 people that are of the same mindset. I mean, they paid money to come into this place and walk through this maze of people that are offering all kinds of crazy stuff, and just to be in front of and be able to interact for 2-3 days with people that are of a like mindset, it's a real treat. So yeah, I really love doing it, and hopefully I can do it more.
So have you one of the things that I thought about when I first discovered you was if there was somebody from a Christian background and then they started having experiences that they know that they couldn't go talk to their pastor about. The minister would not know what to do with this. They would say something, well, those are just devils, or those are demons, or, they'll have some kind of like dream experience or out-of-body experience, or they get visited by, what they think is an alien or something. And then, I kind of envisioned, well, if they had someone like Jeff to talk to, it would be a less threatening environment than maybe going to talk to one of the church's elders or something. You know what I mean? I mean, I just don't know where people Christian, your stereotypical Christian out there. What do they do in those situations? Who do they go and where do they end up?
It's a great question, and actually, I'm starting to see more and more of that. I don't agree with everything you say, Jeff, but I'm a Christian and I can't talk to my pastor about this.
Yeah.
Things about exactly what you're talking about, entities in their homes, or, seeing things, or having, actually where they start, like I had the latest one was a girl who was experiencing, she was just a full-blown empath. And she said, why am I understanding people's feelings, and why am I understanding what people should do? And I can't talk to my pastor about it because he'd say that, I'm being used by the devil. So I'm getting more and more of that. And, it's a very frustrating experience as a Christian when you go to your priest or your pastor and they tell you that, what, that's not of God, it's the devil. Or they tell you, what, you just have to take it by faith, or just put that on the shelf. That's a famous Christian saying, oh, just put that on the shelf, don't think about it. And it's frustrating. And I think over time that builds up in people and they realize, what, I've got to have some answers from somewhere. And if I have to, go to that crazy guy I heard on YouTube, maybe he can at least give me some help on it. So I am seeing more and more people still in the church. I can't talk to my pastor or my priest about this. What do you think? So it's interesting you mentioned that, because it is definitely something that I'm starting to see more and more. And I think that's probably a direct result of having the YouTube channel, grow more and more, and being on coast to coast. That's, millions of people that you're talking to. So I get a lot of it from there as well.
Yeah, I just can't imagine this not being crucially important, and that there should be, another, 2,000 Jeffs out there for these people, because...
Well, that's a scary thought.
Well, we could disguise you.
Yeah.
No, because we're in the information age now, and it's time to make good use of it.
Absolutely.
Rather than fighting with each other like you were talking about, or segmenting. But
absolutely, I agree 100%. And I would love to, my ultimate vision would be, through the YouTube, you can tell where people are, watching you from and tuning into you from, and going to these conferences. It'd be great to be able to go and have meetings in these places where people are listening, and then find somebody that is of a like mind and has enough ability to have like a regular meeting, be it weekly or monthly there, and you could have a whole network of places across the country where people that find themselves. One of my big questions is, now I've left the church, where do I go? There's nobody that believes what I believe. What do I do? And it can be very, very lonely.
Oh gosh,
and
yeah.
I would love to be able to have a whole network of places where people can hook up with other people, and it doesn't have to be all believing exactly the same thing, but a place that's open enough for even a flat earther and a round earther could get together, just because they have a lot of agreement on other things.
Yeah, there's so much mileage just from being polite and supportive and friendly.
Absolutely, absolutely.
The things that can
and
come
I know
out
you probably deal with this too, and I deal with it, and it's I don't know, it's a frustration, but it's something that I wish I didn't have to deal with. When you have the YouTube channel and you have people put comments, and you have people try to put the nasty comments on, you have people that try to troll, and some people, I'm convinced, they just don't believe I'd ever read it, so they put stuff on there thinking I'll never read it, but I read every single one of them, and
too.
Usually within a few minutes.
I do too.
As long as someone's polite, they can disagree, but they have to be polite. They can't be nasty. They can't be rude, and they can't be posting 800 things for products they're selling. But it's weird. People have a hard time being polite, and I just don't understand that sometimes.
Well, they're fighting with their own demons, and I think a lot of these people do have some entity attachments and stuff, because if they had a chance to step back and look at themselves, they would go, "Oh gosh, I would never do that."
Right.
But
exactly.
they're so caught up in their own stuff, which they don't realize is not being their own stuff. It's not really their own stuff. I mean, I think one of the things I have learned is that the extent to which your average Joe on the street has got spirit attachments to them, just because they haven't said no.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And that stuff just gets in your psyche and makes you do things you wouldn't normally do, because you're just a food source,
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
Part of the problem that we have is that our silence is actually perceived as acquiescence.
That's right.
We do have to say yes. We do have to say no, and we
Absolutely.
have to mean it when we say it.
Absolutely.
And yeah, so one of the things I've been doing is practicing leaving some of the comments that I want to delete. And I had
Really?
I had a good one. She said, it was a female from Canada, I think, and it was about an interview that I'd done just recently with a woman who I took a class from on dowsing. Mm-hmm. And she goes, and she
love
writes,
dowsing, by the way. Love it.
It's cool.
I love the divining rod. To me, it's the best yes/no answer out there. Best yes/no modality out there.
It's yeah. I'm trying to practice every day, and I've got questions that I want to ask. And I'm trying to refine my questions to get better at it. But anyway, she leaves this comment. The man is annoying. He asks stupid questions, and he interrupts the flow. And it was me in the third person, right? That's how she was writing it. Like the guy who put the YouTube channel had someone else interview for him. Well, it was me. I did the interview. I did the YouTube channel, and I thought, wow, that's really, excuse my French, fucking rude. And I thought, well, I'm going to leave it on there, and I did. I left it on there. Just, I mean, I don't know. I just thought it would be good for me to just leave it on there. But I do take, if there's like cuss words like, oh, this is a bunch of stupid bullshit, if somebody's a comment like that, I'll just delete because it's not offering anything. It's just.
Usually I'll give them one chance. I'll say, hey, look, I understand, but you can't be rude. And if they fire back another rude one, I'll usually knock them off there. But I think I have been able to find some success by, trying to make jokes out of it a little bit. So because you don't want it, I don't want to get the perception that, that
you're just rolling over.
And that you've got to agree with me 100%. But let's get one thing clear. It's my channel, and it is a dictatorship, but at best it's a benevolent dictatorship.
Okay. So warning to everybody. Be nice to Jeff. Be nice to Jeff.
I like to quote Hannibal Lecter, when at all possible, he prefers to eat the rude. So don't be rude.
Yeah. Well, I don't think I'm quite at the stage yet where I've really got the trolls coming in. But I have some friends who have bigger YouTube channels, and they keep warning me. They say, "Oh, get ready! Oh, get ready! There's going to be."
They will. Once you get up around 5,000, I can attest. They come, and that they're real trolls. You don't know if they're paid trolls or not, but they are definitely there just to troll and just to cause problems. And you'll go into your comments and there'll be 14 of the same exact comment. And it's actual troll attack. So like your friends are telling you, it will happen. And you just have to be diligent, I think, to make sure that, because I think a lot of people must not monitor their comments. And I think that's almost, that's something I'll always want to do, is be able to monitor them, because you don't want to have that type of stuff going on.
You are very engaged with your audience. I mean, a lot of the material that you produce is a direct result of the interaction that you have with people who watch your videos.
Absolutely, to a growing extent. And I, encourage people, hey, let me know, send me, ask me, even tell me if you've got some information. And you're right, a lot of the stuff that I do, probably, I don't know, at least 10-20% of it is directly related to something that came from a subscriber. And I mean, there's only one of me, so when I can get help and input from 4,999 other people, it's great. And I don't know if we were on the air or not, but I can't wait till there's 100,000, because then this energy is going to be even more powerful. So it's going to be great.
That's one thing I noticed right away when I was looking at your channel, is that, like, compared to a lot of other similar channels, you seem to be a lot more engaged with your audience. Like it's not just there's a back and forth going on. There's an exchange. There's a like someone will ask a question, and then 2 days later that question's part of your video, and you're just and a lot of people they can't do that for probably obvious reasons. It's a lot of work to do that.
It's a big commitment, and it's very rare that if you ask me a question that it'll go more than an hour before I'll answer it. And actually, just because we're talking, just friend to friend, that's one of the I saw a video on YouTube about how to grow your channel, and one of them was commit to responding to every comment. And I've done that, and I think it's just the right thing to do. And plus, the people that are on my channel, I like them. They're interesting. They ask great questions. They make great points. And it's the sad thing is that you can't meet them all because they're from all over the globe, right? They're all over the country. And I would love to be able to, maybe when I hit the lottery, I don't buy the lottery tickets, but if I found one on the street and hit the lottery, we'd have a big get together in Cabo or something. We'd invite everybody down. That would be off the chart. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, I've had a couple experiences like that on a smaller scale, and it is awesome.
I walked into Starbucks, and I don't usually go to Starbucks, but I had to have some caffeine. And I'm standing there, and this woman comes up and just hugs me. Oh, Jeff. I'm like, who are you? And she steps back and says, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I watch you on YouTube. I love you. And I'm like, oh, okay. But it was very, very interesting.
That's great.
It was awesome.
Yeah.
And she bought my coffee.
That's wonderful.
It was awesome.
Yeah. Well, I really enjoyed this interview with you. This is wonderful. I hope we can do a follow-up sometime. Hey,
absolutely.
Is there anything else that you'd like to say before we wrap it up?
No, I mean, if you want to learn more about me, go to the YouTube channel. Just go to YouTube, type in Jeff Daugherty or the Christian Whistleblower. And the main thing that I have to say, Denny, if nobody believes or understands or hears anything else I say, is consider this fact that you're not born with original sin, but you have the spark of divinity within you. And there's nothing for you to feel like you're a loser or that you're inherently bad or evil. Forget about that original sin. Consider the spark of divinity within, and try to be your own guru, guide your own spirit, and master your own ascension. And above all, be excellent to each other, and everything will work out.
Beautiful. All right.
I appreciate you being here. It's my pleasure.
All right. Thank you so much, and thanks for joining us, everybody. Bye-bye.